What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning on into the channel. Tobin here with you. Love you guys. You guys are the best. Appreciate all the support you guys are giving us. Listen, I got a new project going on for all those who come in here for Dolphins content. If you guys could help me with this, it'd be really appreciated. Doesn't take much. New podcast out called The Porpoise Pod. I am doing with my boy Alejandro Solana. We are putting that up on, we are doing that a few times a week. A couple times during the preseason, but now that we're going to the regular season, we'll be giving 3 episodes a week. If you guys could subscribe to that, that'd mean a lot to me. I really appreciate that. You guys are already subscribing to this channel. If you guys wouldn't mind hopping on aboard that on the audio feed, that would mean a ton for me. So really appreciate that. As far as the Dolphins are concerned and Dolphins content, we know that we didn't get as much as we thought we would this week because there was no practice yesterday, suspiciously. I did think it was interesting. You know, Mike McDaniel made a good point about the idea of these guys being depleted. It is brutally hot out there with this weather right now, and so the idea that they didn't want guys, you know, low on fluids, low on nutrition because they can't keep it up, and what that could mean to their, you know, it was a well thought out plan for them not to go out there and have this practice. Not just guys just yakking their guts out, but because of this heat and the way that it could deplete some of the players. Really, really smart way to go for the Miami Dolphins, even if the Eagles look very nefarious in this. Just, you tell me. But it was an interesting thing on a couple of fronts. I thought it was interesting that he said that they kept Jalen Waddle out for the reason because Jalen Waddle was too competitive, that they were like worried because Devontae Smith, Slim Reaper, who I wanted. I'm not gonna lie. Like when the Dolphins had their draft that year, I was like, I'm in the Slim Reaper, dude. He is a Heisman Trophy winner. Monster absolutely for Alabama. Clearly, glad I was wrong because not that he sucks. I mean, Slim Reaper looks like he's gonna be good too, but obviously Waddle looks like he's gonna be something next level special, and his speed is insane and game changing. And now he's under the tutelage of the cheetah and all that type of stuff. So I just see that, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, oh, man, whew, don't let old Tobes be the GM. I would have messed it up. But the point is, it's like a little Alabama Crimson Tide reunion. I think as a Canes fan, makes you a little sick, but it is what it is. They're the monster. They're the Mac Daddy right now up front. And Mike McDaniel was discussing the idea that Jalen Waddle would be ramping it up too much against his friend to try and like compete, outshine, all that type of stuff, which he had mentioned. Like he's keeping all these guys, even, the ties to Chase, like all these guys are kind of keeping tabs on each other where everybody is at as far as production, winning, all of the big stuff. And so you have that, relationship there. And Devontae Smith talked a little bit about this yesterday, how close they are. That was an interesting place to go because he really hasn't even done any team drills in, we're talking 2 weeks now. So they got this time that's coming up with a time off after this preseason. I can't imagine Jalen Waddle is going to play in the preseason finale. In fact, I would say it would be almost stupid to play him after not practicing all this time to put him out in the preseason finale. So those weeks of practice leading up will be interesting to get him ramped back up and get up to speed there with everything. So that did, I think, open up some opportunities for some people, though, in practice this weekend. Specifically, probably the man who's been the most interesting in Dolphins camp, and that has been one Mike Gesicki. Because the Dolphins tight end had an interesting last game where he's playing into the second half and is telling reporters afterwards, I'm literally learning a new position, and is trying to adjust to all these things, the expectations that Mike McDaniel has of him, what the franchise expects of him if he's going to get a long-term deal. And, Mike Gesicki really responded this week. I think we got to see a little bit of why the guy is so special, especially as a pass catcher. I'm sure many Dolphins fans have seen the catch, the one-handed grab. I mean, I remember seeing that in person. I was like, holy crap. Because he caught that thing like he just snatched it out of the air. It was just like one of those eye-popping plays that just stands out in the middle of practice. It was so damn good. Got the crowd electrified. So I was glad somebody was able to record that. Somebody was able to sneakily record that at camp because that was very, very impressive from Mike Gesicki. And, to have him deal with all that he's dealt with and the surrounding noise of facing the adversity of learning the new position or the way the position should be played or the way that he's going to play the position. And then also on top of it, you have your first Mike Gesicki trade rumors that are starting to leak out. It could be a lot of stuff. And, it's interesting. Mike was such an avid Tua supporter publicly with all of the noise that was around him in the in the past year. And now it was kind of nice to see Tua, not necessarily with his words, but with his actions, kind of get Mike engaged and practice a little bit more with some sick plays. I feel like that's a good nod from a QB to a tight end to be like to revitalize him a little bit, because you don't want the guy's confidence getting shaken or second guessing himself, especially with what he is great at, which is being an absolute threat as a target. But this is Mike McDaniel. Now, interesting response when it comes to the Mike Gesicki rumors. Care to wonder what everybody says in the comments as far as your thoughts on how Mike McDaniel handled the whole Mike Gesicki trade rumor front?
These reports are tricky to me because I'm like, again, I've alluded to this before at the beginning of the offseason. Like, during the training camp, during the off season in general, like, GMs have work to do, and they're not just watching us coach. So when people report that somebody is, when they use that loose verbiage of, all right, well, yeah, his name's been brought up or whatever. I mean, the report is kind of misleading because, like, there probably should be a lot of names on that report.
Okay. It's an interesting way to go about it. Like, it's like you don't want to feed the fuel, right? You don't want to fuel the reports and be like, oh, well, I don't want to talk about it. That's kind of what Flores was doing last year with Tua, where it's just like, Tua's our quarterback. So Mike McDaniel's not giving you Mike is our tight end type of deal, but he is saying, like, well, these reports are everywhere. These reports are all over the place. They're kind of loose. Probably should involve a lot of players. GMs are talking all the time. It has been interesting to see that they have had multiple reports come out and shoot this down. I think Palm Beach Post said they haven't been shopping Mike Gesicki. Sports Illustrated said that they're trying to develop Mike Gesicki. So they clearly do like a lot of the talent that is there as the player. They're not quite sure if he's going to get all of this and everything that Mike McDaniel wants from his tight end, but this is not a case of they're rats off a ship on the guy immediately. And in fact, Mike McDaniel had a lot of praise for Mike Gesicki and everything that he went through from last week and going into this week and how he's responded.
Regardless of what people try to drum up, like, I'm focused on coaching Mike. Mike's focused on getting better. And, people have made stuff about this, that, or the other. Like, whether you're a receiver or a tight end, or we even have running backs do it, you have to be able to do stuff with the ball, and you have to be able to block for other people that are doing stuff for the ball. And we continue to work those techniques with everyone. He had a great week of practice this week, which tells you a lot about that individual, because there has been random noise that hasn't listened to clearly. He's putting his best foot forward, and that's all I'm concerned about. And it's my job to coach the players on the team, and I like coaching Mike. And beyond that, like, it's kind of a no ends process about talking about, did someone talk about somebody else with, that stuff happens more often than it doesn't.
I think if you're Mike Gesicki, there's a couple of things. One, that he likes coaching Mike, finds that he is, that's always been a thing with Mike, that he is Mike McDaniel, that he is always impressed by how do you take the direction that we give you and how long and how quick and how enthusiastically do you respond to that. He said that many times. One of the reasons that he'll call out Tyreek Hill in certain situations, he said, is because he knows that Tyreek Hill will take it, apply it, and won't make that same mistake if there's a mistake that is being made, and that has a good trickle-down effect on the rest of the roster. Same thing with Mike Gesicki, who may be in a bit of a situation where, okay, you're not happy that you don't have a long-term deal, you're a franchise player, all that type of stuff. You don't quite have all the bearings of the intricacies of tight end, but they think you're trying, and they can see you producing even with all the stuff that's surrounding the team. So none of that says that Mike Gesicki isn't going to get traded, but I also don't find it to be insincere when he says that he does like coaching Mike, that he is impressed with Mike. I don't necessarily think that's Mike McDaniel just trying to fluff his leverage, which could be, like that's always a move too, where a coach is like, oh, well, I'll just chat him up in the media. Because I don't think that he's being dishonest when he's also like, these rumors, there's no end to it. Like, how do you, unless you come flat out deny it and then it happens and then you're just a liar and you told something that wasn't true and never was going to be true. So it's an interesting game that he's playing. I think he does. It's definitely think he plays it better than Brian Flores did when it comes to guys and trade rumors. But also, even with that being said, even if they are trying to trade Mike Gesicki, I think the thing that Mike McDaniel does better than Brian Flores did is the idea that even if they are trying to trade him, he's not putting down the player and doesn't make make it feel like the player is unwanted. And to give him the acknowledgement and the praise that he is handling everything around him great speaks a lot to who Mike Gesicki is. Maybe this thing that maybe this marriage that maybe seemed a little bit rocky after the second preseason game, to have this kind of a bounce back for Mike says, I think it could be going to a better place. And, I think that he showed this week in practice, seeing him out there, the special things that he can do and the reasons why you do pay him a franchise tag salary and why you do give him that much money for that 1 year. And then why you don't necessarily give up on developing him as a blocker, because he is a big boy. He does stink at blocking. I don't know if this is something that he will grab onto, but I do think that it is worth them trying to figure it out and seeing if he can, because when he is out there on the field, he's a hell of a weapon for the team.